To build a successful business, you've got to dream big, but you have to start small. Hi everyone, my name is Wade Thomas. I'm the owner of Black Tie Bar and Candle Company and this YouTube channel, which is dedicated to helping other candle makers like yourselves, not just with product, but also with running a candle business. So if you are interested in learning more and you would like to check out any past or future videos, please consider subscribing below, and also don't forget to hit the like button and hit the bell notification as well so you're alerted whenever I post new future videos. So again, I would encourage you to check out all the other videos on the channel. Many of those videos specifically talk about candle making itself, product development, how to test, using different waxes, things like that as far as it relates to actually candle making. As well as in the description below, I will have other links and resources to other things that might help you along your candle making journey as well. But today we're going to talk about something a little bit different. We're not going to focus on making candles specifically today, but more about some tips and strategies for you to think about and consider as you're beginning your new candle business. Things to help you get started and make sure you start off on the right track. So look, I get it. We all get excited to hit the ground running. It's human nature. We have this idea, we want to see it come to fruition as soon as possible. We're all very eager to get going, and we're just thinking about the long-term success. But rushing things along can lead to a slew of other problems. A lot of us that have been doing this for a long time all have our regrets and things that we wish we would have done differently in the past. That's normal. We're all going to have that no matter what you do. There's always going to be those things in the future that you wish you would have known previously. Well, that's part of the goal of today's video, is to help you out with some of those things that I wish I would have known and that others wish they would have known. And I'm going to put those together in several videos over the course of time. But today's video is going to focus on 10 of those things that I'm hoping you can learn early on in your candle making business and set you up for success in the future. The key to all of this is to start strong, but not fast. And we'll talk a little bit more about that as the video goes along. But the goal is to win, right? To achieve the long-term results that you really are after, not just to win a participation trophy. So stay tuned and let's talk a little bit about business theory and strategy to help you get started off on the right foot. All right, tip number one. I mentioned starting strong, not fast. All right, so we bought our new running shoes. We just want to start the race fast, full speed. We just want to get going, hit the ground running, right? But candle making, as the cliche says, is more of a marathon, not a sprint. It's all about pacing. Remember, there's no finish line when it comes to business, just mile markers. And by that I mean don't be in a hurry to get some kind of end goal, to hit that finish line. It's all about pacing and hitting each mile marker along the way, improving as you can as the race goes on or the marathon goes on, so that over the long run you are successful. The reason pacing is so important is that it helps to prevent burnout. Anyone that's been testing candles or been making candles for a long time, many of you have probably hit that stage before already. You can get overwhelmed, you can build some anxiety, you can feel like you're doing too much testing and not seeing the results that you want, and you just kind of get that feeling of being burnt out. Do I even want to continue? But this isn't unique to candle making. This is something that all business owners and entrepreneurs and people doing their own things run into. So the goal here is to prevent that from happening to you, or at least mitigate the amount of burnout that happens to you. Again, things are going to get tough, and there's going to be times where you feel overwhelmed and anxious, and you're struggling, and that's all normal. That's part of being business. Business is hard. Candle making is hard. You put those two things together. We know this is going to be something that takes a lot of time and effort, and so the most important thing you can do early on is to pace yourself and prevent yourself from getting burnout too often or too early. And that goes to the final sub point about this being a marathon and not a sprint, and that is what will help you pace yourself and help you from getting burnt out is if you don't spread yourself too thin. And that is something that many candle makers and hobbyists in general will do early on. And I was guilty of it myself. It's very easy with all the options out there, different jars, thousands of oils, all these different things, label ideas. There's just so many things out there that you can focus on, and you spread yourself way too thin. One thing to help you pace and to prevent burnout is to stay focused and not spread yourself overly thin, because that is something that will lead to you being burnt out and feeling way too much anxiety and making it too difficult to continue on. Again, this is something I wish I would have done from the very beginning, and unfortunately it's something that's very hard to correct. once you've kind of gone down this path of having way too many balls up in the air, you're forced to try to continue juggling them, because if you don't, they're going to start falling, and then you start feeling failures after failures, and you start feeling like you're just falling further and further behind. Tip number 2 is something that actually comes from the finance world. And if any of you are familiar with it, with the term called TVM, which is time value of money. And so a layman's term way of explaining what time value of money means is that any dollar that I have today is worth more than a dollar I'll receive tomorrow. And the reason for that is because that dollar you receive today, you can invest, and it can lead to more prosperity than the one that you're going to receive tomorrow, because it's got that extra day, that extra time value. And so that's what time value of money means. Well, in candle making and in business, there's another term that I like to use that I call time value of effort. It's not so much about money and investing like it is in the finance world. It's more about the effort, the time, the energy that you're putting into your candle making and focusing on the right things that's going to lead to that compounding effect of future benefits. So what exactly do I mean by time value of effort? So I just mentioned you don't want to spread yourself too thin. You don't want to go too quickly, too fast, too early on, or you're going to burn out and you're going to lose your pacing. But there's a difference between starting too fast versus starting strong. And that is what I want you to focus on, is by starting strong. And so how do you do that? Well, let me take an example of something that a lot of people struggle with early on, and they feel like they just don't want to invest too much time and energy and money into, because they're not seeing the results and it feels like it's not worth it. And that is, of course, testing. I talk about testing a lot in all the videos because it's so important. It's the foundation of our products going forward. So how does testing serve as an example for time value of energy or effort? Well, testing is one of those things that requires you to put a lot of time and effort and potentially money into product development early on. And it's painful. A lot of us don't like to spend that. We just want to make products and make money and grow our business. But the reason it's so important is if you put that extra time and effort and energy into your testing now, the value of that compounds forever. Because once you put the effort and the time into testing today, and you figured out the recipe for a particular product, you're done with that. The hard work is done. And everything else from that point forward is just positive benefits. It gets easier over time because you invested the energy up front. And so that's what I mean by time value of effort. Put the effort in now and you'll see compounded results for the long term. The reason why this works is that profits will continue to rise, right, over time as you sell more products. But as profits are continuing to rise, the level of effort to make that product, that effort has stabilized. You put a lot of testing and effort early on. And so early on, your amount of effort shot up, right? But then after the testing is done and your effort has been put in, that effort stabilizes. Think of a graph, a line chart, right? That effort stabilizes, but over time, sales continue to go up. And you see how the gap widens? That's why investing effort early on leads to compounded positive results over time. So I know testing is a pain. I know there's things that we don't want to spend too much time on or focus on early on. But if you put the right amount of effort on the right areas, you focus on the right things, then you're talking about long-term results that require less and less effort going forward. It allows you to continue to grow your business without having to trade more and more time for money or time for results. To kind of just summarize it into one simple sentence, put in the effort now, start strong, and focus on the right things early on. I have another video that I talked to my channel earlier about kind of how my business got started. It's called the Black Tie Barn Origin Story. And in that video, I give some other specific tips on what things you should be focused on early in your candle business. And we're talking about things like product development, testing, learning how to make a good burning candle. Right? There are other things that you can focus on as your business grows and as things develop down the road. All right, number 3 is to simply set a schedule. And I'm talking about a schedule for product research, testing, making your candles, making your melts, basically making your products to sell. A schedule for when you want to focus on marketing. And then of course, bookkeeping. That's something as a business owner you're going to have to think about a little bit too, is how you want to track your income and your expenses and things like that. So simply put, create yourself a schedule. If you have another full-time job or you're in school or you've got a family or anything else, work this schedule into your part of your overall schedule. But it is very important to set some type of schedule for yourself when it comes to your candle making business. Number 4, find some type of way to track your tasks and your projects. So basically some kind of project management system or task to-do list system, right? And the idea there is to always have something that you can throw your to-do list, your action items that you have to do, throw them on a board, throw them on a list, throw them on a whiteboard or an Excel sheet or a Google Keep or any kind of application out there, whatever you want to use to track your to-do list. I basically like to have three type of task lists that I track for myself when it comes to candle making. One is simply the one I've already referenced, and that is a to-do list. Something that I can throw, oh, I need to get this done. I throw it on that list. And if it has a due date on it, of course, you can assign some type of reminders or due dates to it, whatever works for you. The second thing I like to track is my testing notes, my product testing. And so I have a system to track that as well. I will track when I made the test product, and then obviously all the details and notes about how the testing went on, and then the final results. And then the third thing that I like to always make sure I'm tracking is my product ideas. And it doesn't just have to be product ideas, I guess. It can be marketing ideas, any ideas around your business. So I call it my wish list or my wish board. And that is things that are not necessarily a to-do item, and it's not necessarily a testing item, but it is a future idea that I just don't want to forget and I want to make sure I get down. So some type of task management system or project tracking system, I would say, is a very, very good idea to have early on. Helps keep yourself organized and helps keep your plate a little more clean so you can focus on what's right at hand and not have to be trying to constantly think in your head all the little things you have to do. Number 5, keep it simple. I know so far I've talked about a lot of things that might sound overwhelming, but really those are just kind of strategies and mindsets and ways to approach your candle making business. But what's really important is to keep everything simple. So I've talked about focusing on what's important. Well, keeping everything simple will help you achieve that goal as well. By keep it simple, I mean don't overwhelm yourself with too many product ideas early on. Put those ideas on paper, but it's important to not focus on all of them at the same time. You want to keep your testing simple, your product simple, your business simple, your plan simple. You just want to have a clear vision of where you're going, and you don't want to overwhelm yourself with too many moving parts early on. Number 6 is bookkeeping. Now, this is not something a lot of people really like to think about or really like to spend a lot of time on, but if you can tackle this early on and at least have some type of basic plan in place, it will really, really save you some headaches down the road. So find yourself a good bookkeeper. You don't have to spend a lot of money early on, especially if you haven't have an established business, but spend an hour, do a quick consult with a bookkeeper, an accountant, and just say, look, I want to do a candle business. Here's the type of materials I'm going to be buying. Here's the type of expenses, how I'm going to generate sales, things like that. And they will get you basically a little checklist to follow and make it real simple for you. This is how you need to track everything for you. And then at the end of the year, when it comes tax time, you'll thank yourself that you did that later, because it's a nightmare to try to deal with those problems later if you didn't have a good direction from the very beginning. As far as bookkeeping goes, don't overcomplicate it for yourself when you're starting off, but it is a good idea to either do a little bit of research or just talk to a bookkeeper or an accountant and ask them for some advice starting off. Again, you will thank yourself later and highly regret it if you don't do that early on. Number 7 is to sample products and materials, but sample deliberately. In other words, have a plan, make sure you have deliberate, intentional sampling and testing of new materials, whether that is waxes you want to try or new fragrance oils. I say deliberately because you don't want to, again, spread yourself too thin by trying too many waxes, too many jars, too many fragrance oils. So again, all of these are sort of intertwined and connected, right? Keep it simple, keep it focused, sample materials, but do it deliberately. Oversampling can cause you massive anxiety and feel like you have no idea what to do because now you've got way too many balls in the air, juggling too many things again. Sampling materials like waxes, oils, jars, even possibly labels, things like that. Sampling is important, but do it deliberately, do it intentionally. You do not want to oversample and stress yourself out. All right, so number 8 is about limiting your suppliers and your materials early on in your business. Now this one happens to have 3 kind of separate benefits. First, I should say, I know that limiting your suppliers can be difficult because not all suppliers carry everything you might need. For example, some suppliers have a lot of different wax types, some have a lot of different oils, some have a lot of different wicks, but not all suppliers have all of that. So I completely understand if you have to kind of venture out and try different suppliers, but my suggestion is to do the best you can to limit your suppliers. Try to find 1, 2, maybe 3 suppliers that have everything that you think you'll need between them, and then try to consolidate your orders. The reason doing this will help control your cost is mostly in regards to shipping and bulk pricing or volume pricing. But the big one is really about shipping. If you can consolidate most of your orders and your materials from 1 or 2 suppliers, that is going to really help lower your shipping cost. You're not going to have separate shipping orders from different locations coming to you. And typically with most places, the more you order and the larger or heavier your shipment is, the price eventually goes down for shipping. But simply put, the more places you have to order from, the higher shipping charges you're going to pay overall. But the second benefit is also controlling your inventory. So if you're limiting your suppliers and you're limiting your supplies, then you also have better control over your inventory. You're not going to suffer from inventory sprawl, which I've been guilty of and many people have. And that is where you end up with way too much inventory that it doesn't really move, it just kind of sits there, and it becomes very difficult to not only keep track of, but it's also just flat out a waste of money. And so controlling your inventory cost early on is very, very important. In fact, the longer you're in business, you'll realize more and more the importance of tracking and controlling inventory. But if you can get that handled early on, it's really going to make things a lot easier for you in the future. And then finally, the third benefit of this is to simply decrease complexity. If you're limiting your suppliers, controlling your costs, controlling your inventory, this makes your job a lot easier. And when you're starting off, you're already overwhelmed with having to learn how to run a new business, testing products, working on labeling, branding, and everything that's involved with starting a new business. Any areas that you can limit complexity and make things easier on yourself, the better off you'll be. Number 9 is what's your purpose? What's your vision? What's your passion for doing this? To have some type of plan in mind so you're not just kind of winging this from the very beginning. A lot of people like to start off with, do I have a niche? What's my niche? Maybe you're into sports, or maybe you're into love and romance, or maybe you're into Greek mythology, or maybe you're into animals. If you have a niche that you kind of want to focus on with your candle branding, that is completely fine. Or if you just want to make your general line of candles like many candle companies out there do, that's completely fine. And again, it's completely up to you, but just create a plan around that choice. And then also think about your long-term goals. What is it that you're hoping to achieve with your business? If you don't really have some goals in mind down the road, then it's really hard to stay on track to try to achieve those goals. So create a plan and make sure that plan includes some goals. The reason why it's important to have a plan and to have goals is because there's going to be times where you're struggling to motivate yourself. You need a little kick to get you going, and sometimes we often rely on willpower to do that. We try to convince ourselves that, look, I just need the willpower to be able to do this. I want to be a business owner, and part of being a business owner is being able to get up off the couch, stop watching TV, and just go do it. Just go do it. I have the willpower to do it. Willpower is difficult. What's more important is why power. Why power will make you much more motivated to get up and go do what you need to do for your business. If you have a purpose and you know why you need to make a product and why you want to get out and market your business and why you need to get on and learn more about testing and about your raw materials and how to make better candles, that is why it's important to have goals and a plan, because it's much easier to follow why power than it is to follow willpower. I know that I want to be in business for myself in a year from now. I know that I want to have my candles in so many stores by this target date. I know that A, B, C, and all of those things are going to give you why power, why you should get up and have that motivation, and why you should continue to put in the effort, as opposed to just saying, well, I just need to because I'm supposed to. One of those is a much more effective type of motivation. Lastly, number 10, I know this is cliche, but it's very, very important, and that is just to have fun and enjoy the process. If you don't enjoy making candles and enjoy being in business for yourself, if you don't enjoy the process, you will get burnt out. You will not see light at the end of the tunnel. You will feel like it's not worth the time, it's not worth the effort. You will feel like your goals will start being out of reach, or even more concerning, that you just no longer care. You have to enjoy the process. You got into this because you wanted to. Try to always remember the reasons you got into it. What desires did you have early on? What was motivating you and interesting you about candle making or running a business from the very beginning? If you always remember and remind yourself why you got started, and then you have fun and enjoy the process along the way, that is the key to having a successful candle business. Running a business is tough. It always will be. But it's a lot easier if you enjoy what you're doing. Just remember, all businesses start small. While it's important to dream big and have long-term goals, you've got to start small. And hopefully this video has reminded you that it is important to dream big, but to start small and start strong. Create a plan work your tail off to follow that plan, but stay focused and calm. One of my favorite quotes of all time, I say it and use it all the time, is be like a duck. Calm on the surface, but paddle like hell underneath. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. We'll see you next time. Thank you.